Yo, welcome in everybody. We've got another episode of Too Much Fantasy Football here, brought to you by the Fantasy Football Advice Network. I am Brian. Besides me, I've got Brennan. How are we doing tonight?
Just another night in paradise, man. How about yourself?
Hey, we are on the eve of the NFL schedule dropping. I am too excited to talk about, but we are going to be covering all of the positional tiers. Tonight we have quarterback. The next few days we'll be dropping running back, wide receivers, and telling you which quarterback to grab. Before we get going, though, we've got a bit of news. We have Jared Goff signing an extension, and I didn't see that. I mean, coming into this offseason, I saw it coming, but when they first made the trade for Jared Goff, I did not think this kid was going to finish out his contract, much less sign an extension. But 4 years, $212 million. What's your first reaction to that?
I mean, and it's like $170 million guaranteed. Like they're fully vested into him being the guy for the next at least a minimum 3 years. So. I mean, for everybody who thought they were going to write him off, I mean, I still think, if you think about it, the NFC Championship game, they were just a few plays away from, the ball falling on the other side and then being in the Super Bowl and then having another rematch with Kansas City, which I think, that would be a good game too. I mean, who knows? It's hard to beat Patrick Mahomes, but I think they believe in Jared Goff, and Jared Goff has a new life in Detroit. So I like the signing personally. So.
Yeah, I think their window of drafting in the top 10 is going to be gone for a little bit. So, their chances at a rookie are pretty much gone. So I think you have to stick with somebody who has taken you nearly all the way. Like you said, it was mere minutes that Detroit was to seal in that game against the 49ers. And that stupid catch by Brandon Ayuk, that just unreal, so lucky. But yeah, Jared Goff, I'm thoroughly impressed. I was on the team originally when he went to Detroit. I just didn't think he was that good. I saw exactly what McVay did. I did not think he was going to be able to elevate a team, and this clearly shows that you put the pieces around him. This guy is an above-average quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think my philosophy for Super Bowl winning teams, you got to have at least a top 15 quarterback. You just have to at least have a top 15 quarterback, and he's definitely top 15 in this league, so it falls into that category.
I mean, yeah, you look at what the last 10 years, the quarterbacks to win Super Bowl, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford, and Nick Foles is in there. But, you've got to have a really good quarterback to get over that hump to win the big game. And today is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to talk about these quarterbacks. We've got them tiered up, and we want to know which ones are the ones that we're heading into the season. Who are we grabbing? Who do we want to stay away from? Where's the discounts? And Brendan, why don't you go ahead and start us off with your tier 1 quarterbacks? Who you have there?
Yeah, so my first tier is called Safe and Secure. Will finish as a QB1. So if they play 17 games, no matter what, they will finish as a top 10, top 12 quarterback and 6-point, 4-point, touchdown, formats, which my first one is Josh Allen. Second one is Jalen Hurts. Third one's Patrick Mahomes. And fourth is Lamar Jackson. And I think you can kind of interchange Mahomes and Hurts, but I think Josh Allen still sits at 1 just because he still uses his legs as much as he does.
And with limited pass catchers, he might be relying on those legs just that much more. So we could see a season where he just separates so much more just because of that rushing upside. The amount of rushing touchdowns he might bring in there. Because James Cook, they didn't seem to trust him to be the touchdown guy there at the end, especially bringing in the elder statesman, college elder statesman, Ray Davis, the 27, 28-year-old, somewhere in there.
24. Oh, he's almost 25.
A little dramatic, but I got you.
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's still that's pretty old in running back years.
100%. Yeah, this 24? I think is supposed to be the peak for NFL running back. So he's peaking already. So I think he's a great bet for fantasy this year. But we're not talking about running backs, Brian. Shut up. We're talking about these quarterbacks, and I'm right there with you. My first group is my steady eddies. My top 4 guys: Allen, Hurts, Mahomes, Jackson. They, like you said, if they're finishing the season out healthy, they will be a top 12 quarterback. It has to be there. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the rushing upside as these other 3, but he's got the passing numbers, and he keeps growing the pass catchers that they have. Hollywood Brown will contribute. Xavier Worthy will come in and contribute. Rashee Rice, if he gets on the field, he will contribute. And of course, Travis Kelce, highest paid tight end now.
Brian, it's okay to say that it's Mahomes and that no matter what, he's just magical and will get things done, and it always falls his way.
It is, but now after 3 Super Bowls, I'm kind of it's rubbing off on me a little bit. I'm trying to pass around the happiness. It's getting a little Brady-esque.
I've already said Mahomes is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen in person, and obviously I've seen Peyton Manning throw the football. I've seen Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. I think Mahomes is going to go down as the greatest quarterback to ever play.
God, already. We're not even halfway into his career, and that's
I know.
the topic of
But
conversation.
he could retire and still have a Hall of Fame career. So
100%.
yeah.
All right, so I'm going to slide into my tier 2 is quite a bit bigger than yours. We have the same guys in tier 2, but my tier 2 is going to be discounts with top 3 upside. I think all of these players have that ability. Most of them have the rushing upside. It's going to include Kyler Murray, Jaden Daniels, Anthony Richardson, but also a couple of guys that, they may give you 200 to 400 yards rushing, but I think that they have the passing touchdown numbers within Dak Prescott and Jordan Love. I think these guys can still compete with the best dual threat quarterbacks just because of, Dak's got nothing else to do. They're not going to be running the ball very much.
That's true.
So
I get why you have Dak here. Dak makes sense. I was like, all right. I was trying to see why are you going this route, but now it makes sense with no running game. They're going to be throwing the ball about 50 times a game, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I think he had 35 touchdowns last year, so those numbers, they're not a given, but if he can get over 30, I think he has the ability to do that. And Jordan Love, this team is so young, so talented. We're going to see somebody emerge, and I just think that he has a great chance of throwing over 30, maybe even 35, 40 touchdowns this year. But tell me, what's your tier 2 look like?
So my tier 2 is only 2 guys, and I call it I'm playing to win. So I think if you draft these guys, you are playing to win because the upside is really, really high, but it's also really, really sketchy, which is it's Anthony Richardson and Kyler Murray. I mean, Anthony Richardson in his couple games played, he was already looking like QB. He was like QB3 on week 1, and then QB, he finished as QB8 after leaving the game in halftime against the Texans. Again, I might be biased, but watching him play just from a fantasy perspective, the rushing side upside is huge. And with Kyler Murray getting Marvin Harrison Jr., who's already deemed he's already a top 12 wide receiver. We'll find out in our breakdown, but more than likely he is. I just think his upside is high too, because he still showed a scramble when he came back.
Yeah, and this will be year 2 removed from the ACL, so he should only be that much more secure in his movements, just the fluidity that he has with his knee. So I'm really excited. And there's the discount. Everybody's discounting him. In best ball, he's going all the way down there at QB 12. This guy is the second highest points per game quarterback ever. Yeah, he's not out there every game, but that's not always what you need. If you've got a guy that can go win you half of your weeks, and then you're going to fill in with some of these lower guys in these lower tiers, that's great, because of those up games, Kyler's going to win you a handful of weeks no matter what.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you play to win. At the end of the day, those guys I feel have the bigger upside over the guys you've mentioned to score more points. Not saying they're going to be, on a week to week better, but I'm just saying just a chance is higher for them to outscore those guys that you mentioned.
Yeah, I agree with you. So your tier 3 kind of dabbles into my 2 and 3 a little bit. So
yeah, a little bit. So my tier 3 is called I have upside, but I also have a safe floor. So I think it's guys like Stroud, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, and Brock Purdy's now in my. He's in my, he has upside, but he's also safe because obviously San Francisco puts up a ton of points, and Brock Purdy's just a good quarterback. So I think a lot of these guys, you just feel very, very safe that you took them, that you're going to start them every week. You don't have to worry about it. They might finish as, hopefully finish as QB1. They might have some QB2 weeks, but more than likely they're going to be right around that middle fringe.
I think that's kind of right where I like to aim to. A lot of those quarterbacks that have that upside, but have that safe floor. So I guess for you, playing one QB versus a super flex, do you have a certain range that you like to aim out of these top tier? Do you like to shoot for those top tier 1 guys, or do you go for those discounts here in these later tiers typically?
It depends. So if I do one quarterback, I typically like to walk away with a top 6 quarterback. I feel that's just, if I'm going to win in a redraft league, I need to have a guy who I feel is going to finish as top 5 no matter what that position, and it's just an advantage to have. So I always shoot for, in most of my redraft leagues, I will walk away with Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, Lamar, Anthony, Kyler. And if I don't walk away with that, my next choice would probably be, I guess Stroud, who do the next one up of mine. So that's where I'd like to, draft my quarterbacks at. So
see, that's my biggest problem. If we jumped into my tier 3 here, it's called Great Floor, I don't like the price, though. CJ Stroud, Joe Burrow, and Brock Purdy fall here for me. These are guys that you are getting minimal to none as far as that rushing upside. So that floor's not quite there. Now, this trio has some of the best pass catchers. So they have that upside that they can be elite as far as passing the ball. But I don't want to depend on that. I don't want to go into the year rolling the dice so heavily on the price you have to pay for these guys when they need to throw, like I was talking about, heavy in the touchdown department. So if I'm not going to have that guaranteed, I'd rather take a shot on a guy that's going to have those rushing numbers. I went back and did a lot of the research. They need to average 6 rushes a game for a quarterback to finish top 12. It's nearly guaranteed. Yeah, if they don't play all the games, it's going to be fuzzy, but on a points per game basis, they will be a top 12 quarterback if they average 6 rushes a game. And Anthony Richardson was approaching double digits. So it's not even like 6 rushes a game is out of the realm of possibility for these guys. And you just don't get it. And then there's the whole, but the rushing guys, they get hurt. CJ Stroud missed multiple games last year. Joe Burrow had multiple injuries. You talking about those scrambling quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins? No, these statue quarterbacks get hurt too. So, blow it out your ass, all this injury with these rushing guys. Give me the high ceiling, and I don't want to pay up for these, what I'd call middling fantasy quarterbacks. They're not going to win you more than a couple weeks a year, whereas my tier 2, that's where I like it.
Yeah, another thing I'd mention too is that when you break down your tiers like what you and I have done, you got to also keep in mind of like what's the average ADP for that guy, because like obviously I'm higher on Kyler, like he's my quarterback 6, but in most rankings he's usually around like 8 to 10 is where most people have him. So like you got to keep in mind like if he's there at my quarterback, you can wait to work before you overreach for him. So
100%.
Yeah.
All right. Tier 4, what you got for us?
So my tier 4 could be quarterback 1 or it could be quarterback 32, and it's both Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. So I think both of these guys could theoretically be quarterback 1s. I think they're, when you watch their tape from college, it's impressive. Caleb Williams looks like Mahomes, and Jaden Daniels has just a lightning in the bottle when he gets out of the pocket. But again, they could fall flat on their face just because college is different than pros. So I like both of these guys if I, miss out on the top 6 as well, just because like, hey, I don't know what they could be. They could be anything or they could be trash, but that's the fun of it. But I think I have Caleb ahead of Jalen just because I am pretty high on Caleb as a pro coming into this league. I think he will ultimately be a top 10 quarterback after this year is done. I think he will show enough to be that way. So I'm more bullish on him than Jaden. Jaden, I'm still a little bit leery on, but I know he will rush a lot. So like, I know that that's still enough to be a quarterback 1, just like you said.
Yeah, I'm relying on Jaden Daniels' ability to run. Rushed for over 2,000 yards in his last 2 years. This guy could give us an RG3 season. Is it pretty as far as NFL goes? That's not what we're worried about. We're playing fantasy here. That's ultimately what it breaks down to. And Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud, you have to throw that season out the window just a bit because these rookie quarterbacks don't typically produce the way that CJ Stroud did. But Caleb Williams, it's been talked about before. This is probably the best situation a rookie quarterback, or at least first overall rookie quarterback has ever come into. Just so many weapons, and it's great. And that's why he's in my tier 4. My tier 4 is called the Honda Accord. May not be sexy, but it gets the job done. It gets you from point A to point B. You're not having to fix a whole lot. It's pretty reliable. Within that tier, I've got Justin Herbert, Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, and Caleb Williams. All of these guys have weapons surrounding them. Maybe not Justin Herbert, but I think Justin Herbert's efficiency numbers are not being looked at enough, or at least what we can see. Greg Roman has produced a top-end quarterback frequently in his offenses. He may like to pound the ball. He may like to run it. But with that comes the opening up of the play action, the high efficiency touchdowns for Justin Herbert. We could see I think it's 4.2 is the average touchdown percentage for a quarterback. He's going to be in that 5 to 6% just because he's not throwing the ball near as much. So those touchdowns should be up. I'm not near as worried as everybody else is. He's outside of the top 12 in most rankings and ADP. I'm a big fan of this group. I think there's a lot to be had with these players that you're getting way later in drafts.
No, I agree with that. I have Justin Herbert, I think like quarterback 13. So like I am a little bit, down on him, but I think it's not anything crazy though. For my next tier, I'll have my moments, but more than likely I'll be QB2 on a week-to-week basis. So Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, and Jared Goff are in this tier. I fringed. It was between a couple other guys that could fall into this, but I think these guys are more of the younger ended suit and just have that just talents there, like you said. Maybe not for Trevor Lawrence so much too, and Justin, but Trevor Lawrence he's got the first round, first overall pick, and he has moments when you watch him play. When he plays like a pro, he's legitimately a pro. But when he sucks, it's awful, and there's just no rebounding from it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Love the category. So my fifth one I've got here is talented cast and proven QB. I've got Tua, Matt Stafford, Trevor Lawrence, and Aaron Rodgers. All four of these quarterbacks are guys that we've seen get it done before. Maybe not on a consistent basis, Tua and Trevor Lawrence, but we've seen them do it before, and they have great pass catchers. So I don't think we should limit them to based on what we've seen in the past. I think Trevor Lawrence, he's a good candidate. If you can get him way late, closer to QB 20, I think he's going to be a steal in drafts because I do think that there's going to be usable weeks, especially with the injuries. How many quarterbacks started last year? It was an obscene amount.
I think
just injuries
were injured and I think missed longer than 6 games. I think it was eight quarterbacks, something like that, something crazy.
It's 25% of the league. That's way too many. So I do think we're also seeing that reaction in ADP. Right now, we're seeing these elite quarterbacks going much later than they were last year and the year before. So I think that's where there can be some reaction drafting. But if you're not in those, people are smart in your drafts. They are taking some of these big guys early. This is a nice tier that I like because they're set up well for success with the weapons that they have. But we got to get to your next tier. I love the category. I loved what you named this one. What do we have?
So my next tier is Father Time is Coming / Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson. So, yeah, I just because I couldn't put him in the tier below and I couldn't put him in the tier above just because of what he's done recently. But it's Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, and Deshaun Watson. So, again, I don't have a problem with these guys. I think they'll be good holds for bye weeks, when your player is on a bye or you want to stash somebody away, for a rainy day, for when your bye week's coming up. These are the guys I'd look at their matchups and see all right, what can I do with this? And Deshaun Watson, I just there's times where he looks really good.
Wrong way.
Yeah, he definitely rubs in the wrong way. There's times where he's looked good for Cleveland, and then there's just times where he just looks like a bag of ass. So, I mean, there's just no in between with him.
And all four of these guys, Matthew Stafford played more games than he usually does, but all of them have injury concerns too.
Yes.
3 of these 4 guys did not finish the season. We were cheering on Joe Flacco's winning fantasy football championships, for God's sake. So definitely we're getting into the tier of these are some weary guys, but you're not paying much for them. So I like the risk reward. I know you said you like taking some of those elite guys early. Hey, give me 3 or 4 of these guys at the end, and we'll kind of just pilfer through and see what works. But both of these strategy works, folks. It's all about your league. It's about how the rest of the draft goes. My tier 6, I've got talented cast with questionable QBs. So just like the tier before, these guys have a great surrounding cast, but we haven't seen it on a consistent basis. Will Levis, that first week, folks, we are holding on to it. And, I mean, it's simply that. We have Tyler Boyd, we've got Calvin Ridley, and then DeAndre Hopkins. 2020, that's a sweet wide receiver room. 2024, you've got more Ben Gay and crutches than you know what to do with between this wide receiver room. So I'm really excited for Will Love. He's got a couple of capable pass catchers back there with the running back. So ceilings, it's there for him, but it's just, does he get the yips? Does he get too scared in that backfield? Geno and Baker, we saw some turnaround seasons for them. Regression, I'm sure, is coming, just like we saw Geno last year. And then J.J. McCarthy. Dude set up. All he has to do is not go in there and screw up. Sam Darnold's going to go make him look great in training camp. And, dude, just get it to Jefferson. That's all we need.
Yep, that's true. Or Addison or Aaron Jones,
Or Hawkinson when he comes back. Oh, my God. That's crazy.
True. My next tier is I'm content with them being my quarterback 2 in Superflex. So again, these are guys that you're just all right, if they're my quarterback 2, I'm perfectly fine. It's Baker Mayfield, Will Levis, Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, and Bryce Young. All these guys I feel like have games where they can finish like fringe, like close to like top 15 levels. Bryce Young, I'm not out on him. I know a lot of people are, but I think the team, the organization did the right thing this year. They went and they got Deontay Johnson, who I think will be a PPR machine. They got Xavier Legette, who is going to be very fun to listen to in post-game conferences. But he's also, I mean, but he's got, shades of Debo in his game. So like they did a lot. And then they took Jonathan Brooks as well, who they like to lean on as well when he gets back to being 100%. So I think Bryce Young will be a very, very safe floor as a quarterback too for Superflex.
I'm not out on Bryce Young. Call me stupid, turn off the show. I get it, people, but it's year one. You got to give him a little bit of chance, and there's no risk at this price. So turn up your nose if you want to. Sniff the vinegar. I know it hurts, but I think it's worth taking the shot. But Legette, did you see the little clip about him and his horse, Dollar Bill?
No, I have not, but like I love going on TikTok and I'll see his interviews and like the translator's just like it's just like a question mark, right? And I'm just like it's pretty accurate.
God, the characters that have come out of this draft, I'm here.
It's been great.
I
am here for it. It's great.
So my next tier here, it's just a little baby tier. It's called Thank God They Can Run. Daniel Jones and Deshaun Watson. These are not elite passers, and these are guys that we have seen finish up in the top because of what they can do with their legs. Daniel Jones, they didn't do a whole lot to give him competition, so Drew Lock's there. Does he maybe get to squeeze in there at some point at the end of the season? I think Daniel Jones has got a pretty good shot at running this team, though, this year. Just give him one last shot. Bellinger, an up-and-coming tight end. We've got Jalen Hyatt from the year before. Wan'Dale Robinson says he may be healthy this year. And then, of course, Malik Neighbors. Ooh.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing exciting, but I think it's a decent stash for a QB2 that gives you some upside with the rushing ability.
No, I like that.
My next little tier, I guess you'll call it. I'm just ashamed that I didn't put them last. Bryce Young, Derek Carr, Russell Wilson. Nothing sexy about any of these fellas, but these are guys you'll look at late in your Superflex draft. If you went early quarterback and then you just ignored your second one, these are guys you can probably pick up later and should give you some startable points.
I agree. My last here is unknown, cement for feet, and just happy to be in the NFL. So it's Geno Smith, JJ McCarthy, Russell Wilson, Bo Nix, Aiden O'Connell, Jacoby Brissett, and Aiden O'Connell you can mix with Gardner Minshew and Jacoby also with Drake May. Drake May would probably be a lot higher if they were coming out and saying he's going to start, but it sounds like that they might sit him for the whole year. So that's a little bit, bummer. I don't think he sits for the full year. I think he does sit for a good amount and learns behind Jacoby Brissett and kind of gets familiar with the offense and stuff like that. But yeah, these are guys that will sit on the waiver wire all year long. And if Bo Nix might surprise us. He might, have some really safe QB2 floors just because Sean Payton's really good at creating offenses for very quarterbacks who are handicapped. He has no issues, making them look better than what they are. So Bo Nix might move up a little bit. But yeah, these are guys that, I don't ever plan on putting in my lineup for Superflex and or for, single quarterback leagues.
Yeah, you're hurting, really. This is, you took a quarterback early, they got hurt, and then you're coming to, because I was kind of a dick here, and I put Bo Nix, Aiden O'Connell, and Jacoby Brissett in my trash can tier, because if you're having to start these guys, your season's already in trouble.
That's not wrong.
Well, everybody, we can't thank you enough for joining for our quarterback tiers episode. We hope we answered some questions for you and gave you a bit of perspective of how you need to be approaching this summer going into these drafts. Brennan, before we get out of here, you got anything for the folks?
No, if you guys have any questions about your league, or any trades, anything like that, put it underneath the comments below. Myself or Brian will probably answer. Find us on the Facebook group for Fantasy Football Advice Network and then our Twitter. So
100%. And everybody's already following, subscribed, and hit the bell because they want to hear more information for us. Stay tuned. We'll come back for you in a couple of days, and we will hit you with the running backs. Until then, we'll see you later.